Okay, good afternoon, guys. Thank you very much for being on time. Thank you for tuning in to another lesson with me, Coach Matt. Hope you guys have been practicing your chess. I hope you guys have been staying warm. It's been a challenging winter so far, so I hope you guys are doing okay. All right, let's get into our study for the day. As you can probably see from our chapter headings, we've got some mate and ones, and then we've got a couple end games where we're going to discuss a few important concepts when it comes to winning positions. We have one where we're like one pawn up and we sort of need to exchange into a winning end game, and there's another one where we are miles ahead and we just want to make sure that we don't have any hiccups in that game or in that position. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. We got mate in one, white to play. As usual, guys, please get involved. Don't just sit there and stare blankly at the screen. Get involved. If you get it wrong, no problem. I'd rather you get it wrong and get involved. There we go. We already got somebody in the Zoom. Yeah, type those answers in. Get them in. Okay, so we've got a bishop f7 and a bishop f1. I have a feeling that they're probably the same answer, just a mistake with the 1 and the 7. Although the 1 and the 7 are pretty far apart. So who knows? We'll have to see. There we go. Okay, thank you, boys. Good answers. Can't chat on Lichess. Maybe I did not change that setting again. Apologies for that. Somebody please try and do the chat on Lichess. Let's just try that again. I have to enable it, and I'm pretty sure I've done that, but all right, doesn't matter. Give the Lichess chat a chance when you've got a move or anybody's got an idea. So far we've had some bishop f7 from the boys. Nice idea. Okay, and that is the correct answer, guys. Bishop f7 is mate in one. Very important concept that we're going to be visiting a little bit today. We also touched on it last week, and that's double check. What is double check? Well, as the name suggests, it's two checks at the same time. So we've got, in this case, check with the bishop on f7, and we've got check with the rook on e1. Now, what's important for you guys to understand, there we go. I'm glad to see the Lichess chat is online. All right, so what's important for you guys to understand when it comes to these double checks is that when it's double check, the king has to move. So normally when there's a check, there are those three options that we've talked about that you need to look at, and that is to take the piece, potentially to take the piece that's checking you, to block the check, or to move out of the way. Okay, and those are the three in that order. That's how I want you to look at it. First, though, can I just take this piece that's checking me? Maybe I can. Life's easy after that. I'm pretty happy. Alternatively, we can block, and then finally, maybe we can move out of the way. When it's a double check, two checks at the same time, you can't take because then the other piece is still attacking you. You also can't block because then, so there are two checks, and for that very reason, you need to move the king out of the way. It's the only response. In this case, you can't come to d8 because the bishop's covering that square. The rook's got the e file, and the pawn is defending the bishop from the king. So that is that. Interesting one. Let's say it were black to play. Let's say I just turned it on its head and I said it was black's move here. What move could black play to prevent getting mated? What move could black play to prevent getting mated? Easy move, easy move. So if it were black's move, what would he do? Queen f3, yeah. I was like, I was going to say something. I was like, well, that move could do the job. Queen f3 could do the job. Thank you, Victoria. Queen e7 also, Rico, thank you. Is that a king e7? All right, thank you. King e7, a strange choice, but it will do the job. The king will be able to run to d6, which is interesting. Guys, I would have just taken this bishop. Sorry, that's a bit of a skew arrow. But I'm just thinking, let's say, for instance, the king's here, and then I just take. I'm just going to take this bishop. Once I remove that piece, looks like I'll be okay. King d7 gets me out of the way. Queen f3, I didn't touch on that one. That one does the job. It's a nice move. Let me move something else. So let's tell you that. And then it's queen f3. Queen f3 will do the job, absolutely. But still, I feel like it's very important just to get rid of that bishop. I want you guys greedy on the chessboard. Take those pieces. Don't leave your opponent pieces lying around. If you've got an opportunity and it's safe, go for it. Take those pieces off the board. All right, fantastic. Good participation. Nicely done. Let's move on. White to play, mate in one. Let's rock and roll. So look at all possible checks, definitely. Number one, that's what you should be looking at. There we go. So we've got pawn to h7 already. That's good stuff from Victoria. We've got knight e7 from Rico. Knight e7. This knight, unfortunately, does not go to e7. I think it's that Boucher who wants pawn e7. Good stuff. Pawn h7, of course. Guys, just remember when I think I've said pawn h7 is fine. All right, I won't go into detail. But technically, when you read books, when you read chess books, you'll never find p h7 because they don't count the pawn as a piece. So what they do is think of p to h7, and then you just take away the p. So it's just h7. And that goes for any pawn move that you want to do. All right, that was quick, that was easy, and that was a solid one from just about everybody who responded. Fantastic, lovely stuff. h7 is mate. Not the toughest one you guys have ever solved, but pretty cool to mate with a pawn. It won't happen every day, and it's always fun when this does happen. It's a nice one. Let's just double check and make sure, no pun intended. Let's just make sure that everything is covered. So the king can't come here, he can't come here, he can't come here. The bishop's got the diagonal, maybe make that a different color. Good stuff. Knight covers these. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Done and dusted. Let's say it's black to play. What can black play to prevent this h7 threat? So we're just going to sort of do the same thing. I like this idea because it's quite important for you guys to be able to defend against mate threats. In fact, it might even be more important, but that's a debatable one. Black to play now. How does he prevent the mate threat? You've got the black pieces. You don't want to die. What you going to do? You know what's coming. Rook f1 is class. I like rook f1. Rook c8. So that's a rook. I understand castle to c8. I also like to call it a castle, but technically the correct term is a rook, and that's why I do make a habit of saying rook. So rook to c8. We've had rook to f1. Both are checking the king, so that's good stuff. Rook to f1 is a better move. I'll explain that now why. Rook f1, and the reason being is because I can get behind the pawn. So that's pretty good. I'm threatening the pawn, which will probably force white to play h7, just because otherwise I'm just going to take that pawn. Then I've got rook h7, knight h7, king h7. And this position is drawn because you cannot checkmate somebody with just a king and a bishop. So nice saving grace for black there. Excellent. Let's move. White to play main one. Let's get those answers in, coming in quick and fast. Nice. Looks like Boucher's on the ball. We've got a queen g7, we've got a queen c4. So like I said, always a good idea to investigate all possible checks and all possible attacks. And you can basically use that in any position that you ever find yourself in. I mean, it's always a good idea to investigate all the checks and all the takes, all the captures. So we got queen c4, which is a good one. It's check, but it does feel like I've still got these two available squares for the king. I think he's going to make it out alive there, but nice try. It's a good move in any case. And then the other one, queen g7. Of course, the most important thing is just to make sure that that queen is safe. Whenever you're going to move a piece around the opposition king, you got to be like, well, am I certain that I'm not just losing that piece? In this case, it seems like we are certain about that. So queen takes g7, and that is not possible. The rook is defending, so the king is in check. He cannot escape the check, and we know that this is mate. All right, so let's backtrack. It is black to play now, Jum. It's black to play now, and we need to save ourselves from being mated. There's an obvious move here. It's probably not going to help black too much, but let's stop him from getting mated. Black to play, prevent the mate. King h7 will unfortunately not do the trick. You're going to run, but you're still going to get mated. And then you're going to find yourself unable to escape. Nice try, though. Let's try and defend the bishop. Wink, wink. Knight e6. Thank you. Come on, guys. I want the rest of you to get involved. Can't let only one person. There we go. Sorry, I didn't see that one. Bishop e5. Just remember, the bishop is pinned. So unfortunately, the bishop is unable to move anywhere off this square, as he will be then leaving his king in check, and we know that we're not allowed to do that. One of the cool things, or one of the coolest things about doing it online, is that it just literally won't let you make that move. Like, you know, if I try and move this bishop, let's say I move this king, so it's black's move, and I'm trying to move this bishop now, it just won't let you play illegal moves. So, I mean, I know you guys have seen this maybe in a game, even if it wasn't you making the illegal move, your friend makes this move or your friend makes this move, and you're like, no, 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 you can't do that. You know, then you have to sort of show them that they're moving into check. But the cool thing is online, it just won't let you do that. So knight e6 does the job. It defends the piece. Who knows? It's the only chance that black really has. Maybe white will just get careless and be like, cool, I'm checkmating you. No, no, you're not. And okay, funnily enough, I think white still has good winning chances, king and rook against king and knight, but it's hard work and it's going to take a while. Let's move. White to play, mate in one. Rook e7. No, no, no. It's got to be a safe square. Square does not look very safe. Does not look very safe at all. So, guys, loving the answers, loving the participation, but don't guess. Chess is not a guessing game. Try and think carefully and come up with good moves, good solutions. It's not technically a race either. You know, you don't have to do it super fast. But seeing as we are on a time limit, we need to do it with a little bit of, just a touch of haste. So we've already had a good answer. I'd like somebody else to get involved. It's been a little quiet. Let's see what we got here. Main one. So I'm not telling them the answer unless they probably saw it on the screen sharing, but oh well. Let's see who else can give me a solution, please. Thank you, Boucher. But we're just waiting to see if anybody else gets involved. You are correct, by the way. Okay, no takers, unfortunately. So again, look at all possible checks. There were only two. Technically, there were three checks. So there's check number one, check number two, and check number three. So let's start looking at these a little bit closer. So check number one, ooh, that doesn't look good exactly. The king is just going to help himself to that rook. That's not a winning formula. We talked about rook e7, not a safe square really. The bishop just takes. Probably white still ends up winning the game, like rook takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, king takes, and then do a checkmate with a king and a rook. We know it's not the easiest thing to do, but we know it's not impossible. I've done a couple videos on this checkmating with a king and a rook. Be sure to check those out if you're not sure what's going on there. And then the number three, the winning move, checkmate, one move. I think the most important thing is the rook covers the F file. So there's no escaping to those squares, which would be sort of the first thing that you think about. And of course, again, is the piece defended? Yes, it is. So the king can't take the pawn. Everyone is happy. I will help you guys with this one. Let's say it were black to play and black needed to defend or to prevent the pawn to d7 mate. It looks like I can just take this pawn, hey? And let's move this king to make it black's move. Pawn takes pawn. Whew. Black feel like he dodged a bullet there. That's good stuff, but it's very problematic. Being two rooks for a bishop, it's tough. So rook h1, threatening rook h8, which will also be mate. Probably bishop e7 to try and prevent this. Let's go with rook h8 in any case. As we said, we'll block the check. One attacker, one defender. Let's add another attacker. And now we'll see that there are some problems for the black pieces. He's going to have to move, and then the bishop's going to drop. And I don't think we should have any difficulty checkmating with two rooks. One rook, sure, a bit of challenging. Two rooks, Two rooks, nice and easy. You just sort of use the old ladder method, hey? Again, it's a couple of videos about that. You guys should find that fairly easy to do. Let's move on. So this is the first one that I was talking about. So this is converting an endgame where you're winning completely. So this one, I just want to highlight the importance of the passed pawn and how we're going to turn this position into an easily winning game. So let's just see how much we're winning by. We've got two pawns against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow. So black's got an extra 3 pawns, but we've got an extra 2 bishops. So it's 3 against 6, which means we have an extra 3 points. Pretty easy, not bad. We shouldn't struggle too much. What we're going to do is we're going to use these bishops. Technically, good endgame technique will be to march the king into the center of the board, use the king to support the pawns. But I think we can get away with, in this one, I'm just going to play this move first because I'm going to target this weakness. Remember, we always want to attack the unprotected pieces, the pieces that are undefended. And those become the targets. Once I win this pawn, this will become a passed pawn. Remember, a passed pawn is a pawn that has no opposition pawns blocking its path to promotion. So just need to get this guy out of the way, and then we are sorted. See, he can't really push the pawn because I'm just going to take it. If he pushes it twice, I'm also going to take it. I'm just not sure what is he going to do. Let's try king e5. Bishop takes. Black is trying to hopefully, you think, get at this pawn. It's not really going to help. You see, the bishops are covering a lot of ground. I was going to say very many squares. So king goes back to g7. Do we want to lose this bishop? I think not. We'll just tuck it back. Any one of these squares would have been fine. This one works because I stopped them from making progress. I'm also quite excited to use this bishop on this diagonal next. Let's go here. Maybe they're going to try to go b4 to make this a little bit challenging. Let's go bishop c3 as promised. King f7. Probably a bad move because I just get g6 in. Check. I'm making progress. Slowly but surely, I'm moving my pawn up the board. I'm getting closer to the promotion square. And not really a great deal that the black king is able to do about it. He can't go to any of these squares. He goes here, which makes sense. So my plan is I need to get this king off that square. I can push this pawn because I'm defended by the bishop, which is good news. But I want to get the king off the square. I think the best way to do that is to go here. Oh, I didn't even see it. I can just go here straight away. That seems like a good idea. I'm just going to go bishop d5 check. King f8. Who can give me a good move for white? If you've been following, you should have a move lined up. G7, nice. And nice. Well done, guys. G7 has been spotted. Good chess. Very good chess. Glad to see you guys paying attention. Fantastic. So we've got to check. Pawn is untouchable. These squares are unavailable. Let's go king here. Is that a queen? Yes, that's a queen. Yes, please. I accept. Let's go pawn here. This is a bit of desperation from black. I don't really see what else they're going to do. But okay, so let's finish them off. Queen f7 check. Always good to just make sure that piece is protected. King d8. I was going to say, okay, so we need to checkmate this king. My first instinct says go bishop here, but maybe there's no need for that. Let's use the bishop and the queen to checkmate this king. He's already in desperate trouble. So what do we know? We know we want to put the queen right in front of the king like that. That's generally the way that we checkmate. Whoops. So we need to defend this square with the bishop. So either bishop here or bishop here, so that we can defend. Oopsie daisy. We can defend that d7 square. Let's go here. We're like, you can have the bishop. We don't mind. You know, that's a gift for you. You can take that gift. We're more interested in the mate. And that is that. So, okay, I think a nice one just to sort of illustrate the power of the passed pawn. And like we're always talking about, I want you greedy on the chessboard. I want you taking your opponent's pieces and not losing your own. Technically, it was a little bit of an easy position because we didn't need to even involve our king, which is normally one of the most important things to do in the end game. Let's move on. Guys, you can always come back to this and revisit this at a later stage. It will remain open and you are free to check it out whenever you want. Okay, so this is the other one, a little bit more tricky concept. And here we're going to highlight the use of the king. Very, very important. So who's winning and by how much? Let's have a quick look. So it's queen for queen. They cancel each other out. Nice and easy. 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns against 1, 2, 3 pawns. So that looks like we're just 1 pawn up. This is a good illustration how you only need to be 1 pawn up to win a chess game. Let's check it out. Queen check. The main purpose here is that I need to trade off queen for queen. There's 2 ways of doing that. Queen c7 does the job. because the queen can't run off the file because it's moving the king into check, which will then get my queen swapped off, which is good news. Queen for queen. I think a lot of you guys wouldn't do that. You'd be like, no, I want to keep my queen on the board. Remember, when you're winning, you want to trade off the pieces. That's the most crucial concept to learn. So queen check, also same story. They had to block. It's not like they wanted to block. They didn't, but they had to. They had no choice. We trade the queens. Now, as advertised, we've got to bring the king into the game. Let's get into the center. Try and get here as quickly as possible. Whew. All right, you see both kings racing to the center. Who gets there first controls more squares. Because now the white king can't enter these squares. He'd be moving into check, and we know that's an illegal move. So white also has the potential to create a passed pawn on this side, which is definitely something that we need to be mindful of. Let's go with b4. I'm going to go f5, a4, g5. It's pretty obvious what both sides are doing. It's time to start marching the pawns down the board. White's got to be a little bit careful, though. It seems this king is getting quite close here. I think we'll just go h5. Probably a good move. White at some stage will have to now start getting worried about these pawns and start going this way. But for this game, we're going to go a5, which sadly is a bit of a mistake. Of course, he's hoping for a6. Then pawn takes, see daisy. And then this pawn is hoping to make it all the way. Unfortunately for him, this king is right here. And nobody is better at gobbling up pawns than a king. a6, pawn takes, pawn takes. What's the move black needs to play here, guys? This pawn is on the run. He wants to promote. What do you have to do here in this position? Most crucial. It's a very, very important move. Probably the most important move black will play. Who's got it? Who's got the move? Someone has. King b6 from Rico, good man. King b6 covers the squares. And this pawn is a goner. Let's say the white king comes in. He's like, I'm coming for these pawns now. It's not really going to help him, though. This pawn's on the run. King b7. I think he meant the same thing. Thank you. King here. Now, I've got to be careful because I want to push these pawns. But, of course, the most important thing is to not lose these pawns. A pawn is the potential queen in these situations. And the last thing I want to do is lose my potential queen. That's like losing my ability to win the game. I'm just throwing the game away. That would be tragic. And of course, like I said, the last thing that you want to do in this type of situation. Not a whole lot that white can do. Let's try h3. King gets closer. He's a bit stuck. You know, he can't come here because then the pawn runs. So maybe he has to come here. King here. Now, okay. Now I can finally start marching up the board. Pawn takes, pawn takes. And I know we've dealt with this exercise before. I'm not 100% sure about the video that's been done on this. I might have to still do one-on-one in this exercise. But king and 2 pawns, fairly easy stuff. I don't think anybody's going to have too much difficulty with that. Again, just the most important thing, don't lose the pawns. Make sure that when you're pushing the pawns up the board that they're defended, push them together so that they defend one another like this. And then you're in no risk. You know, you don't want to lose a pawn, of course. And most importantly, you don't want to stalemate. So I see this a lot of the time. The king will now find its way to this square and it will cover both the exit squares for the white king and then stalemate, which is a tragedy. Of course, it's the last thing we want in this position. We just play king e2 just to push this king out. He has to come out, which means I can come in and I can control this very important g1 square. So king out, king f2, king h3, and promote. King's got to run. We could, of course, promote and do the ladder for this exercise. I'm just going to use the king, and we'll just hunt this king down and then checkmate him nice and easy. So king here, king here. Of course, now I'm threatening these things. King's going to run. I'm going to follow. He's going to run until he runs out of squares. and then he gets checkmated. Nice and easy. All right, guys, like I said, it's a very good idea for you to revisit these exercises and just sort of go through anything that might have been a little bit tricky for you, you might have not fully understood. Just to highlight here again, we said we trade off the queens because we were a pawn up, because we were winning on material. We're points ahead. And then it was the race of the kings to the center. We needed to get our kings to the middle of the board as quickly as possible. Notice that if they waste time pushing pawns, the king would just scoop in here and just take the pawns if the white king was still sitting back there. So the king is the most important element in these king and pawn endgames. And then from there, we just created a passed pawn and slowly nursed our passed pawn till it became, till it promoted and got us a queen and won us the game. Guys, I'd like you to use the next half an hour to play some chess online. I will be online. I will be watching you guys. So use this opportunity to maybe practice. If you don't have time now, I'd like to see you guys playing a little bit of chess, preferably daily. But I mean, if you don't have time, at least a handful of times or days a week. Remember, practice makes perfect, guys. If you want to master something, you need to put in some time. Okay, so that's it from me. I'm glad you guys were paying attention. It seems like it went well. Yeah, practice hard, look after yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. That's it from me. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, Coach.
Bye-bye.